Hi, everyone. Welcome to the MAE 2019 Ignite Plus session on transformative data visualization, where I'll be giving you 5 tips to redesigning your data. My name is Jennifer Lyons, and I'm the founder of Pivot Data Design. I work to bring creative energy to making data intriguing and impactful while helping clients pivot the way they communicate their data story. My work focuses on bringing research-based transformations to a wide range of deliverables like charts, slides, reports, infographics, and dashboards. I'm committed to revolutionizing the landscape of data reporting by working with companies, government agencies, nonprofits, and evaluators using a capacity building training approach. I work in partnership with my clients to capture their audience's attention with impactful visuals so they can make meaningful data-driven decisions. To give you an idea of where we're going to be headed today, I'm going to be focusing my tips into these main design element little domains here. The first one is I'm going to give you some tips on how to set up your overall deliverable to be successful. The second is I'm going to talk a little bit about some color tips. The third, I'm going to talk about building interactivity into your graphics. The fourth is I'm going to give you some tips on how to make sure that you're using appropriate layout that's all nicely aligned. And the fifth is I'm going to talk about embedding storytelling into the overall visuals. So let's get started. So I have 2 tips that are specific to setting up your overall document. The first one is how to change your slide size inside of PowerPoint. So I'm going to go ahead and just open a brand new PowerPoint document here to show you what's going on. Now, to change your slide size, this is important. You might be thinking, why? Well, when you first open it, your PowerPoint document, it looks like it's a widescreen slide, like you're going to be presenting. Well, what if you want to use PowerPoint to make something like an infographic or a one-page dashboard or a one-pager or even a short report? I personally try to do all of my design work inside of PowerPoint when I can. I like to use Microsoft products for designing because I find that that's most useful for my clients ongoing because they already have some familiarity with how to use the software. In addition to that, I find PowerPoint the easiest Microsoft product to design in. So let's talk about how to change your slide size. You're going to go to the Design tab up here at the top, and then you're going to come all the way over here to the right where it says Slide Size, and you're just going to select Custom Slide Size. And in here, you can see that you can change the width and the height of your slide. So usually I'll make it an 8.5 by 11 if I'm doing a portrait piece of paper. And when you go ahead and change that, you can see you have just a nice piece of paper that you can work from to build a one-pager, whatever it is that you might want. Other ideas for slide sizes, you can even change it to be, let's say, the size of your business card if you want to design a business card. If you want to do an infographic that's a little bit longer, almost like a legal size piece of paper, this is where you can go to make that all happen. I also want to talk to you about how to do this inside of Excel. So in Excel, you are going to just go into your Excel document, and let's say we're going to be making something like a dashboard in here, one pager, even a report. I often work in Excel when I have back-end data that's going to be updating on a regular basis where I want to link graphics to so that I don't have to be copying and pasting graphs from Excel into PowerPoint on a regular basis. But right now, my Excel document just looks like a bunch of cells. So how can we make this look like an actual piece of paper so when we are designing inside of Excel, we know what we're working with? The first step is going to the View tab up here at the top. And over here on the right, you're going to change it from normal view to page layout view. Okay, now it looks like a piece of paper, which is great. I'm going to zoom out here because do you see how the cells are not centered on the piece of paper? That's a little bit annoying to me, and it makes it hard to actually, if you want to be typing in any of the cells, even though I mostly work with text boxes, it's good to have it centered on the page. And so the way that I edit that is you're going to go into the page layout, and this is where you can change things if you want it to be in a landscape orientation instead of portrait. That's where you can go ahead and do that. Now let's show you how to center those cells. You're going to just expand this page setup window, and you're going to go into the margins up here, and you're going to see this little option, center on page, horizontally and vertically. Now, I usually remove all the margins in Excel, and I remove the header and footer. So you just put zeros in there. And then you're just going to hit OK. There we go. It looks like a piece of paper, kind of, except for there's a bunch of cells everywhere. Now, if I were to go ahead and like print this, it looks like just a white piece of paper, okay? It's almost like it can't find anything to print because there's nothing on here. The little cells don't actually print, but it's nice when you're designing to not have a bunch of lines trying to confuse you. So what I do is I like to just do Control A on my keyboard to highlight all the cells, and I'm just gonna change the fill color on the Home tab here to white, and it makes it look like a nice piece of paper. One step further that I often do is if I know it's going to be a one-page dashboard, sometimes when I put a graph over here, like a little bar chart, it'll actually kind of bleed over onto this page. And then when you go to print it, it'll try to print 2 pages, which isn't helpful. So usually I try to really think about how many pages is the end deliverable. If it's really a one-pager, I highlight all the cells on this first page here. And under page layout, you're going to find this little area that says print area, and you're just going to say set print area. So that when you go to print something off, you're just getting that one page, not anything further. So that's a little bit about some tips on setting your documents up for success inside of PowerPoint and inside of Excel. Next up, I want to show you some tips to using color effectively. So the first tip I want to show you is this really great little tool called the eyedropper tool. It is only available inside of PowerPoint that I know of, and so it's really great. So let's say I wanted to change this square to the same blue that we use for our MAE logo. You're going to highlight the square and go to the Format tab, and under Shape Fill, you're going to find the eyedropper, and you're just going to click on part of the blue, and it changes it. It pulls that color from this, which is a photograph, and it pulls it right inside of here. And you can do the same for anything. You could do any color you wanted. If I wanted to pull both of these colors in, oops, you can just go ahead and do that with your little eyedropper tool. You want to make sure you're really highlighting where it is. Now, the really great thing about the eyedropper tool is I try to actually not use this when I'm creating products. I try to figure out what's my color palette. And if I'm using a client or a project and they don't have the RGB codes, this is an easy way to pull it out. This is also a really great way to get to know what your RGB codes are if you don't know them. So I pulled the color into this little square here. So I'm just going to go to Shape Fill and say More Colors. And then right here, it tells me my RGB colors, 1971 105. And I usually make a note of that. And I do that for all of my theme colors for whatever project I'm working on. So that's just a really great way to get to know that. Now, what do you do with those RGBs? How can we build those colors into PowerPoint so that when you are selecting blue, you're selecting the correct shade of blue? How many of us have opened a report or whatever it is that we might be working on, and you scroll through it and there's like 5 different shades of green? How can we ensure that we're choosing the exact shade of green that matches our branding colors? And it's to build in a color palette, and that's kind of my tip 2 beyond the eyedropper. Now this tool in step 2, this color palette is available in all of the Microsoft products beyond PowerPoint. I'm going to show you where it is in PowerPoint. It's just in this design tab, okay, and it's over here actually under variants. And if you select down here, you're going to find an option that sells colors. You're going to see a bunch of projects that I've worked on over the years with clients where I made custom color palettes, but I'm just going to click the Customize Colors button at the bottom. And then this is where you're going to be working, okay? Most of the edits for your colors are going to be happening inside of accent 1 through 6. So if I want to change this, you could just go to More Colors and then type in your RGB of whatever your color theme is. Now, once you get done, I'm just going to go ahead and just assign like a random project X to my, everything. You can see my colors changed. But let's say I wanted to change the font color. Do you see how my color themes actually change? And they're right up in here. So when you're changing things like color throughout your presentation or your report or your infographic, whatever you're making, you could easily pull it from the theme colors right up there. Now, one step further with this is in this design tab, you can also change your fonts to make sure that you're using custom fonts for a project. But after you apply your color theme and your fonts to this exact PowerPoint slide, you can actually save the color theme. So in this same design window under themes, there's this drop down, and you're just going to go to Save Current Theme. And you can literally save this. It's actually a file type called Office Theme, and you can save it somewhere on your computer. And then you can actually email that as an attachment to of all of your coworkers in your department. And then they can download that file onto their computer and open a PowerPoint document, because they're going to be making a new slide deck or an infographic for a project you're working on. And they can apply that theme that you made with all the right RGB codes to their document. And all they do is go to browse for themes, and then they go find the file on their computer and they click open, and it opens it up onto this document. This is one way to not only ensure that you, but also all of your team is using your overall branding colors. It helps for overall consistency and to communicate a really professional, consistent message to your clients through a visual way. Okay, so that's 2 tips when it comes to color. Let's move over to interactivity. I'm going to actually show you how to make a pivot slicer in like a minute. So I want you to get excited. Okay, so I'm going to open this Excel document. And in here, this was me practicing. I'm going to go ahead and like have you take a look at this quick little data set that I totally made up. Okay, this isn't real. Let's say these are all my respondents. This is the years they've been in evaluation. This is a survey response, and this is the gender that they responded with. Okay, so if I want to make a pivot table, really what I'm working towards is I want to show you how to make a slicer to like slice your graphs for different kinds of data. But we have to start with a pivot table first, okay? So all you're going to do is highlight your data set. Mine is really small, but if yours is bigger, you highlight it. You go to the Insert tab, and you see Pivot Table right here, and you just click on that. Now, I'm going to actually put my pivot table in this exact, I don't want a new worksheet, so I'm going to go ahead and just put it right here, and you just hit OK. Okay. So now this little pivot table window opens and the fields pop up here. So I actually want to look at years in evaluation. Okay. And I'm going to want to filter this by gender, let's just say. Okay. Now, I don't want the count, like how many people responded with 0 to 5 years. I want I want it to be I do want the count, but I want it in percentage. So you're going to just change the value field settings to show the value as a % of the grand total. There we go. I'm going to take out those extra decimals, and here we go. We have a nice little pivot table here, okay? And now it's really easy. If you want to make a pivot chart, which is just really a chart that's connected to a pivot table, you can go ahead and insert a little bar chart here, okay? There are issues with this bar chart, I know, like it's really ugly, but we will get to that in a little bit. But here's a little chart here. Now, I want to be able to slice this without having to go into this pivot table and change it to all the different options here, okay? I'm going to want to be able to slice this with a nice little button, okay? So the way you do that is actually with something called a slicer. So you're going to want to put your mouse inside of this pivot table, and you're going to come up, this little Analyze box opens, and you can click Insert Slicer. So you're going to click that. And I want to be able to slice by gender, like I said. So I'm going to just check mark that and hit OK. All right, little gender slicer pops up. And now you can see, wow, you can filter your data to get a sense of what's going on with this cute little slicer. Now, I want you to imagine a larger data set with lots more variables, and you can actually make multiple pivot tables and multiple pivot charts, right? If you had other demographic information or other questions you asked, maybe about their experience with the conference, whatever it might be, you might want to be able to slice by gender across all of your graphs, right? You want to see the survey responses by gender. You want to see other demographic information filtered by gender. And the one way to do that is you can actually connect this one slicer to all of your graphs. And the way that you go about that once you get it built, after you make all of these, is you right-click on this little slicer and you go to Report Connections. And right now you can see there's only one pivot table because there's only one pivot table in this whole workbook. But if you have multiple pivot tables and multiple pivot charts, each pivot table will show up, and you're just going to check mark which ones you want this slicer to control. So you can see when I select man, for example, that controls this. So if you have it controlling multiple ones, it'll do it all. And that's really the basis of creating an interactive dashboard, okay? In your little sheet over here, you're gonna have all of your charts, and you're gonna have a little slicer, and all of your pivot tables will be on one side, okay? My chart, you're just gonna cut and put that into your little dashboard worksheet, all right? And your slicer, so your slicer's over here controlling all the pivot tables on the back end, which then control your pivot charts. So that was a quick little couple-minute tutorial on how to make a pivot table and a slicer to build some interactivity into your overall visuals. I have a couple more tips here before we wrap up. So that was about building interactivity. I want to talk to you about layout. Does something bother you about these couple squares here? It bothers me. Okay, they're not aligned and it's really annoying to look at. So I want to show you this fun little quick tool inside of all of the Microsoft products, and it's called your Align tool. I want these to all be aligned to the top of each other. Rather than nudging, nudge, nudge, nudge with my keyboard, which takes forever and you have to eyeball it, I want you to just highlight all the squares here. And under the Format tab, you're going to find this button. If you don't know about it, be ready to have your mind totally blown. Okay, you're going to go to the Align button, and all the selected objects, I want to align to the top. Perfect. Now I want the distance between the squares here to be equally distributed. So you're going to go back to this Align tool, and with Align object selected, whatever object in this grouping is farthest to the left and farthest to the right become your bounds. And if you click Distribute Horizontally, it distributes all of the shapes evenly between those two bounds. Perfect. That looks a lot better. I can deal with that. So this tool will save you endless hours, I'm being dramatic, of nudging, okay? And it's perfect. It's exactly right. You don't have to try to zoom in and eyeball it. Having really perfectly aligned things, especially in more complex visuals like dashboards and infographics, is essential, because when things are not aligned to each other, your deliverable looks cluttered and stressful. And so if you can make sure the alignment is good, you are one step further to making sure that your overall visual is going to be impactful for everyone. Okay, I have one more couple tips here for you, and it's about making your story come to life. This is that same graph that we looked at in Excel, okay? And the first thing that I always do when I think about storytelling is when you make a chart, you need to just get rid of all the clutter, okay? Because this is just cluttering what my story is. I can't even see anything right now. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the y-axis. I'm going to click on these grid lines here, and I'm going to delete them. I'm going to take off these guides so you can see what's going on. There's also a chart border. I'm going to remove that, okay? No outline. I'm also going to remove this x-axis line here. No outline. All right, now it's just really blank, and I also even change my bars to be gray. I gray everything out, okay, and I am going to make them a little bit thicker here, okay, and I'm going to add data labels because I took out my axis. So I'm going to add these little data labels here, okay. I'm going to make them bigger so you can actually see what's going on, okay. There we go. You can see the data labels. So you add your data labels. That's exciting. Now we need to think about what the story is here. Okay, so let's imagine with this data and with this graph, really what you wanted to say was over 30% of conference attendees were let's say, were new evaluators. Cool. You're going to left align your sentence up here. That's your main point, right? Now let's think about how we can use something like color to kind of make your message come to life a little bit. You're just going to take new evaluators and make it orange and change the bar that is quote unquote your new evaluators, because they have 0 to 5 years of experience, orange. And do you see how you can make your story really start to come to life really quickly? The first step is to just declutter everything and gray everything out, and then really think about who's my audience and what message do I want to communicate in this graph? What do I want to come to life? And you say that in your title, and you go ahead and use color to make it come to life. So that was just a couple little tips about how you can use these design elements to really make your story and your visuals impactful. So I hope you had fun, and I wanted to thank you for joining me on this Ignite Plus session at MAE 2019.